At what point do you buy back in on Palantir? We saw it go under 8. If it goes under 7, do you buy?
The price at this point is not my concern. Honestly, it's not, because you
want them
can't.
to increase the sales force.
Well, not increase the sales force. I want them to be tangible with their go-to-market strategy and show results,
But at
right?
some level, the price gets ridiculous. Like, and you as a purely numerical guy, you don't even see.
I mean,
Profit.
I haven't necessarily evaluated that fully, to try to value it like, oh, what would be the absolute bottom that I buy? I just don't invest like that. I try to look at the company, what it can grow to, what can it be potential of, and then I buy the company. Now, if it dips below cash and they're still generating free cash flow, sure, that'd be something to think about. But as of right now, my brain isn't like, oh yeah, there's a price target by which I'm going to get Palantir back into Palantir, because that just means that now I have to worry about, well, when am I going to sell it? Am I just sitting on dead money? Even if I get a really good deal on Palantir and they don't change anything on their business model, right, and they keep it the same and it stays like that for 5 years, that means I have no return for 5 years, even though I got it for an undervalued price, right? So
this is where I think differentiates why folks on Twitter and the average retail investor gets so upset with Palantir versus somebody like myself. I'm looking at Palantir to potentially become a company because I know that Palantir, the Foundry, isn't just one application. I know it's an operating system. I've used it. We have over 20 applications that we use on top of Foundry. And when you think about it, people are thinking about it, it's like a single application. It's not. It's when you go on your Microsoft computer, you're using it to go play games, go on the internet. It's the same exact thing, except the operating system is built around data. So when I think of Karp and Thiel saying, we're not going to sell, we're building the company for the long term, they're looking at it as if they're going to be the next Microsoft or Amazon AWS or just Amazon logistics platform or e-commerce platform. They're building it for 20, 30 years down the road. And what I think people will want to do is that $30 billion offer came in is to sell. But the long-term potential of the organization is, to me, several $100 billion, if not closer to the $1 trillion mark, obviously with inflation and everything included over the coming 10 years or so. I don't think it's difficult to see. I think that Microsoft, to me, is a very, like, I love AWS. I love Microsoft. I use Office 365 quite regularly. But in order to generate reports, in order to get the data that I need, in order to get all that, I use Foundry on a day-to-day basis. And I'm an engineer, so I'm not, trying to shove that in anyone's faces. But Airbus and all the companies that are very engineer, mathematical, data intensive will utilize a platform like Palantir more so than they will a Microsoft. I've tried to pull real-time data in through Excel and through other means, and it's clunky. It breaks. You get errors all the time.
Let's bridge these conversations together here, because I'll be the intermediary between this, because you both bring up great points. And Matt, I didn't know that you've used this, so this is perfect on the data that I pulled from the 3 announcements that we had this week. We had the Lilium case study. There were some things that if you really watch that video several times over, you can get some really good insights. So with the Lilium video, I took screenshots and I'll just read verbatim with the text of the video. With Foundry, Lilium can create a digital twin of their aircrafts as well as their business operations. Sounds a lot like what we have with Airbus and the whole life cycle of what they've done from the aircraft perspective, right? Key thing that came out of that video: Foundry is very powerful for us, but it also comes with an incredibly smart team who are helping with us implementing this. Combined, it is beyond competition. My concern there is exactly what probably Chris is like, you shouldn't need an incredible smart team to deploy this for every single customer. They haven't got to the point where it's not paying millions of dollars for forward deployed engineers, and to be able to, the average mid-market company can just roll up Foundry, get some value, and move on. And then I can build off that, right? Like, I've talked to account execs at Palantir, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, we could sell you HyperAuto for, a couple $100,000. But if you need help, then it's actually going to be like 1.2 mil. So that's scale, right? Like, and you can hate at me or whatever in the comments, but that is the importance of scale when you look at selling at the mid-market and enterprise side. You want to get your teeth into getting the developers, getting the IT managers using this product. It seems very hands-on in this use case study. So then they move on and they say, well, with Foundry, we're able to see our flight services, business operations, a digital twin that can model the full supply chain and help us prevent bottlenecks and help our users understand their data. It also helps with manufacturing and all our contractors. Great. So we understand that once this is in and once this is fully implemented, you're not taking this out. This is literally changing how your business operates. But how many customers do you have to get to that you can move this fast and convince them to get their foot in the door that much to where you're doing this, right? No one's going to just fork over $6 million to just go and change off of all the different tools like they're using with Snowflake, with Databricks, with Microsoft, right? So that was the first thing in the Lilium video that jumped out at me. Now onto the technology side that really supports what Chris and Matt were saying about how amazing this is. Starts talking about their chief operating officer saying, well, it helps with our flight patterns to optimize routing. So at any given point in time, every single aircraft produced by Lilium will have its full digital replica fully refined. So we are going to lower costs by our flight patterns, our parts. We're going to be more affordable. We're going to lower OpEx. This is something Snowflake cannot do. Microsoft cannot do. Bottom line, top tier technology. We're building an entire data ecosystem, this is the founder speaking, around our airplanes and service, and we want to use every piece of data and every sensor to generate value for customers. We understand the importance of reliable decision-making at the edge. This was really exciting because then we start going into the video and he says, we're using 3 edge offerings. And you really have to pay attention to the video. And I literally took screenshots with the words in there that they are using edge streaming, Edge AI, Edge Apollo. Those are 3 different products, to Matt's point, okay? They're using 3 different products to achieve this capability. And then they're talking about what Edge Stream does. It allows Lilium to run mission-critical data processes unaffected by low cloud connectivity or unstable internet. So think about all the organizations globally where internet is a issue. Now, granted, Elon's pushing hard to fix that really quick with Starlink, but look at all the areas where you have issues around connectivity and you can still provide top level business results. That is worth paying up for, right? So these are big things that they're solving for, and just in that one video. Then we look into what I was really excited about. They're starting to categorize their YouTube videos on what are offerings, what are developer videos, and what are platforms. So their new offering is personnel resources. It is limited personnel resources is their new offering. And it almost was like a workday. Like this showed the power of looking at Palantir at a whole nother level that we haven't seen. It was literally everything that you'd want like out of a workday.
And that's built on Foundry, correct?
Yes. It's another thing built on Foundry. And so literally I was looking at the video and it was showing like employee files of the person, the trainings they've taken, the accreditations, where are they next in their career path. It literally was building on all of that. And it talks about how they're able to forecast and see problems that are happening, which is employee retention in federal agencies, but not only in federal, in commercial and enterprise. This is the the global reset for employees. So it says here verbatim in the video, data is often codified in disparate formats within a web of siloed systems. We all know that. Limiting leaders' visibility into their workforce, making them even the most basic personnel readiness questions, like how many employees are at risk of attrition or who needs additional training. All of these are very difficult to answer. So they're able to take all this fractured data, put it into the personnel pipeline offering, and they're able to help. And then they even give a use case in the video. If you pay attention to it, it says, hey, we helped a federal agency with over 1 million employees help with their retention. And oh, by the way, we did it with our encryption and our sensitive data controls and access controls. And if you listen to CodeStrap's videos, having it where it's security first based coding and platform and what they build security first is something they do better than anyone else, right? We know that from their government days. So That was so exciting to see a whole nother offering. It's so many different uses that can actually go into commercial, federal, and you see the power of Foundry, and your imagination starts thinking, wow, so if you can retire Workday, you can do manufacturing and do data, and then we having talked about the pipeline builder screenshots. You see the power of the technology. Now, I'll not read all these slides. I've been talking a long time, but in the pipeline builder video, what was discouraging was it was all delivered as a developer or an engineer, architect could only understand. Now, I've been enough in the industry with selling CI/CD pipeline software and containers and all the microservices and all that kind of stuff. I do that for a living, so I understood what they were delivering. But your typical IT manager or person, CIO, who would actually be making a decision or even entertaining a meeting around this, that video would go so far over their head, wouldn't even appeal to them. So the way they delivered the amazing information, what pipeline builders capable of doing, which is capable of doing a lot and changing the industry and software development, they're not delivering it in a way that it's digestible and is able to get me interested to take your phone call and take your meeting. And that's the difference between Snowflake, Databricks, Microsoft, and others. I'll shut up now. Chris, Matt, feel free to comment if you saw those videos.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple of things. It's great that they said they're doing all this stuff with Lilium, but tell me, how many passenger flights has Lilium had? None. How many successful manned aircraft flights have they had? None. It's great that you're building the infrastructure of tomorrow, but maybe try to figure out how to run your organization so that you will survive for the next 2 years without having to raise capital funds. I get that Palantir will help you do all these things, but dude, I thought that was a fluff piece because you don't have a working product yet. The short report that came out,
Lilium. I mean, I wouldn't have. If I'm Palantir, I probably wouldn't have put that particular use case out. From a technology side, I was excited to see what the product was capable of helping any company.
Right.
But on the flip side, I would have rather said, okay, let me see Airbus talk about it, or Boeing, or
exactly.
Somebody who I believe will be around in 5 years. So I agree with everything you said there.
Yeah. So that's one of the key problems that I think Palantir is also running into. And this is the thing that kind of makes me pause a little bit also. You always have to look at the counterparties who are using the product, right? I want to see high-level counterparties come out and say that this is a good product and they use it and everything else and that they've been able to change things around. When they did that PG&E video, that was like a home run for me because that is a great counterparty. They're entrenched everywhere, and if they're saying something, people want to listen. But dude, does anyone even know what the European Credit Agency is? I'm not credit, like cricket thing was. No one cares. Like Lilium, Lilium, right?
They get cricket to get popular in Europe.
Whatever, dude. Like terrible examples.
This is an example of go to market. Right?
Yeah.
I get that you have all these different customers, and maybe you only have certain customers that are willing to speak up on the product, but people will start paying attention when you're at the top right of Gartner or the top right of Forrester, and you have Boeing talking about how much they love it, or Coca-Cola saying, hey, we screwed up. We didn't, and we want to go back to them. We're using them now. We love them. All those different things. Who you use and who people pay attention to, what logos you have, matters, like to what you're saying in the market, and that will get people's attention when they see, like for instance, Nvidia on their most recent analyst earnings day, they talked about how now they got Amazon Logistics and they're doing all their digital twins for warehouses, or BMW. So like when you start name dropping that kind of stuff, it gets people's attention in the industry.